And in this session, we are going to look at the foundations of an instructional theory. My name is Patrick AJ. Now, at the end of this session, you should be able to state one essential foundation for an instructional theory and state at least four fundamental elements of instructional theory and explain what Jerome Bruner means when he said a theory of instruction is prescriptive as well as normative. Then state the four important characteristics of an instructional theory. And finally, explain the four conditions for effective teaching and learning. So, what are the bases for instructional theory? And there are several bases for an instructional theory in science education. And one essential foundation is your understanding of the purposes of science education. So what is the purpose of science education? So as a teacher, you must have an understanding of the purpose for science education in your country. Apart from this foundation or essential fundamental understanding that you as a science teacher you must have, other fundamental elements that you must also understand include the principles of learning, motivation, development and social psychology, as well as attitudes and values of the scientific enterprise, curriculum materials, and instructional techniques. Now, all these, your knowledge or your understanding about all these fundamental elements ensures that you as a science teacher, since you are very much aware of the purpose of science education, your teaching will be in line. You employ various strategies that will ensure that at the end of the day, the purposes of science education are being achieved. And individual science teachers will combine all these elements in a special way to maximize student learning in the science or physics classroom. Now, what are the characteristics of an instructional theory? And according to Jerome Bruner, he made mention that a theory of instruction is prescriptive. And when we say to prescribe, it means you are to provide a direction as to how to maybe, use something. And so what Jerome Bruner means by saying a theory of instruction is prescriptive is that the theory must give direction and make provision for effective instruction and enable the teacher to evaluate teaching techniques and procedures. So if a theory is able to do this, if a theory is able to give teachers a direction, it gives them the opportunity to use it offers them effective instruction and also enables the teacher to evaluate the various teaching techniques, then we will say that according to Jerome Bruner, then such a theory of instruction is prescriptive. He also mentioned that a theory of instruction is also normative. And what he means by saying normative is that in this, the theory is general rather than being specific. And so an example is a theory of instruction would give some criteria for a physics lesson on specific heat and heat capacity, but would not give specific guidelines for the lesson. So we can give you the criteria for this lesson. However, the step-by-step approach in order to ensure the effective delivery of this lesson is not going to be provided. When such is done, Jerome Bruner says that such a theory of instruction is normative. Now, an instructional theory has four major characteristics, and the four major characteristics include its ability to help you specify the most effective experiences to motivate your learner. Now, an instructional theory should help you answer the question, what activities will encourage learning? What kind of experiences will ensure or will motivate my learners to learn? So that is one characteristic of an instructional theory. Secondly, the most effective way in which knowledge can be structured to enhance learning. And in this, the instructional theory should help you to answer a question like, what is the best the knowledge and skills of my lesson? In what ways can I present the content of this lesson to my learners? This involves what is being termed as using the most effective way in which knowledge can be structured to enhance students' learning. Another characteristic of an instructional theory is offering you the most effective sequence in which to present material. And over here, you should be able to provide an answer to a question like, how do I present the lesson so all students will develop their understandings of science? Now remember that in the science classroom, we have diverse students in the physics or the science classroom. And in your teaching and learning, your teaching should be in such a way that at the end of the day, all the various kinds of learners in your classroom will enjoy or will benefit from the teaching learning that goes on in the classroom. So you should be able to develop or design your lessons in such a way that all students in your class will gain understanding of the various concepts that you teach in the classroom. And finally, the most effective processes for feedback and evaluation. And that is the final characteristic of an instructional theory. And over here, you should be able to answer questions such as, how and when should I give a feedback? When should instruction be assessed? What is the most appropriate form to obtain and return feedback? How should I modify my instruction? Your ability to provide answers to all these questions will also provide you the most effective processes for providing feedback and evaluating student learning in the classroom. Now, what are the conditions for effective learning of physics? And one of the most effective or important conditions for effective learning of physics is ensuring active student participation. Now, mind you that in your classroom, should you make your learners passive participants, where they only see the teacher as a repository of knowledge, who is only coming to impart them some of his or her knowledge, then remember that your students are not going to enjoy your class. At the end of the day, they find your lesson boring and learning does not also occur. So to ensure that your students' effective learning of your learners happen in the classroom, you must make sure that your learners are active participants during the teaching learning process. In addition, you must also provide optimal structure of the knowledge. And here, what do we mean? What we want to say is that the body of knowledge should be presented in a simple form, enough to be understood by your learners. You know, you bear witness with me that students normally perceive physics as one of the most difficult subjects, in that most of the concepts that we treat in the classroom are more abstract in nature. So, as a teacher, in what simple form can you present these abstract concepts so that your students will understand your lesson? Your students will also benefit from the teaching that goes on in the classroom. Another condition for effective learning is the optimal sequence of knowledge. And here, as a science instructor, you must understand that as science instruction progresses, we present and draw students' attention to relationships among ideas, processes, and skills. So in your teaching, in as much as you are teaching, you must also ensure that your learners are also benefiting from the teaching. And one way they can understand the various concepts you teach in the classroom is by drawing their attention to the relationships among the various ideas and skills that occur in the physics or science classroom. And the instructional sequence should also increase the probability that at each step the learner understands. The learner should be able to transform and apply the basic ideas, the basic skills and processes in the real life situation. And another condition is your ability to receive, respond, and give feedback in the teaching learning environment. So anytime you are teaching, you must ensure that you provide constructive feedback to your learners. all ways and means to maximize student learning in the science classroom. And student feedback should in turn influence your instruction and your response to their achievement. So, students, in this session, we look at the elements of instructional theory as well as the conditions for effective learning. And as we bring the session to an end, according to Jerome Bruner, a theory of instruction is prescriptive. What does the term in italics mean? Let us get an answer to this question and present our answer in the subsequent session.